it's anchor in the buoy. That's your opinion. We're gonna get some theme music.
I can't hear anything out of my headphones.
You should plug them in.
Are they not plugged in?
I don't know what your deal is.
I can hear fuzz.
You can't hear any talking at all.
I feel like I'm at a military hearing exam, and I'm hearing those little beeps. We'll just roll with it. I'm going to take them off after we...
All right. So, first video I want to watch.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
That's all that matters, because...
Well, but you need to be able to... All right. So, first video I watched. So, this is a library in Houston, Texas. Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee's district. Now, this colored thing that we're staring at in the middle of the screen is a cross-dresser that is a child that is a sex offender. Okay. And they are doing the reading time at the local library.
He's already a convicted sex offender?
Already. So,
is it transgender?
This is reading time. This is cross-dresser. So this is reading time, okay? This is the public library's reading time. Brought a cross-dresser in, watching that. What's going on with this in the background?
The video's over.
I know, that's it. So this made national news because... this cross-dresser, made it down to the library, which I'm pretty sure she shouldn't have even been in the library in the first place, considering she's charged with sexual assault of minors, stripping for dollars. So what's your thought on that? I guess to articulate the question, what's your opinion? What is your opinion?
Let me give you my opinion. I don't like what was going on there, but I need some context so that I could be okay with it.
Okay.
Was this event meant to be this way? The people that showed up, was this what they were expecting?
Ooh, I don't know.
Because if that's true, then I'm okay with it. If that's what they were expecting to see, then it's what they wanted.
Okay.
I mean, it's a public venue that can be booked.
So is there any regard given to the fact that this person is a sexual offender specifically against children being booked for a children's activity?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, if I don't know if sexual offenders can be in libraries. I think they can. I don't think a library is off limits. But I mean, you can't say because someone's a sexual offender they can never be around kids again because they're in a protected area.
No, you can. I mean, that is absolutely.
Well, you can't get through life then. I mean, that means they couldn't go to Walmart and buy groceries.
So I had that one guy that I just knew from the internet, basically, that was a pedophile, child sex offender, actually with his own kids. And he just explained to me he cannot even he can't go on any social media whatsoever. It's completely against the law for him to get onto social media because he can have access to kids. He can't come within 750 feet of a school. He can't go to public parks. Yep. So the reason I met him was because he was going to get baptized.
Those are all things I'm okay with.
And he was going to get baptized, and we had to go to a marina, and he had to do it. He couldn't even do it on a public beach because of his limitations he couldn't be essentially caught near kids for 7 years or 8 years. He had that. And then after that, he had some other, whatever that he couldn't do. So yeah, they absolutely can keep you from even being around kids, period. Your dictation could be.
No, they can't say you can't be around kids because then what? I mean, you're around kids when you go to Walmart to buy clothes.
But you can't interact with them.
No, but schools, things like that all makes sense.
Library.
Yeah, I could see it being on the list. I just need some context here.
So I guess
if this was, hey, reading time with Ron, and then you get there and there's a transvestite twerking on the floor, I would just, if I walked into that library. Okay, let me go back. If I walked into a library, I don't even know what a library is. We have Google
First and
now.
foremost.
Yeah. But if I walked into a library...
obviously, they're trying to get attendance up. They brought the drag queen for reading time.
If I brought my boys into a library, I'm like, hey, let's go check out some books, and I saw that going on, I'd want to talk to the library manager. Like, what is going on here? This is a public venue. Anyone can book a room at the library to give a seminar or whatever, but what is going on here?
What I don't understand is who booked it. You've got
what does this have to do with the representative?
It's just her district. It's look at the mess in your district. Are you going to do something about it?
That's not fair, from what I know. I mean, this is pick any state, pick the country. Is the
I think
other problems?
I don't know exactly
look at your country.
What
President.
it is, but it is kind of one of those things. when you wake up and you realize that you live in a sanctuary city and there's a homeless park in your backyard, and you realize that the city, the people you voted for have slowly walked you down this
Oh man,
pathway.
I watched a small snippet of a documentary that came on public television on Saturday night about Seattle. It sucks because we live so close to it, so it's like a shame. It's a shameful thing to admit, but Seattle is this far from San Francisco.
Yeah.
So San Francisco has the most property crimes in the nation, and Seattle is a very close second.
Yep.
And you know who has the least? And they're only counting big cities. L.A. is almost at the end of that.
Really?
Opposite.
Why is
And,
that?
They went into it. Like, I was with my 3-year-old. I couldn't pay it. It was a good documentary, but it's one of those things like he wants to watch cartoons.
So let me ask you this: did they talk about the LA thing? Is it an issue where they actually have fixed the crime problem like they did in New York in the '90s, or is this where they stopped reporting crimes? Because
Like I
that's been
said,
a thing too.
I don't know, but
'Cause-
they were just trying to make a point on that one particular crime that it's right up there with San Francisco. Anyways, they were showing all this actual people who live in Seattle, not outer skirts, but the city of Seattle, and how pissed they are because there's homeless people just sleeping in a chair on the sidewalk. 'Cause
On
they
the
have
in their front yard, essentially.
essentially.
Yep.
And it's like, what? How is this not? So there was a foreigner that was there. Was like, how is this not illegal? This is public property. You can't live on public property. It's like why you can't just leave and go live in the national forest, like those Alaskan bush people. Why they got in trouble? They built a house and the Forest Service burned it down, and the TV show portrayed it like their home got taken from them, but really they were trespassing on public property. So I don't know. My thoughts are on that.
I look at something like this and I think, where are the adults, right? Like,
They're all
okay,
standing around there.
well, who booked this thing? Who said, hey, for story time, we're going to have Luanda, my friend whose real name is Lars, but he dresses up as Luanda. He's a sex offender, but we're going to have him do a performance art for kids at the library. Like, the person who booked it, where is your judgment? What is going on? Like, this is a national outrage. This is a big deal. From my understanding is shouldn't even be with kids anyways, right? Let alone this forum like at a public library. Because the thing about public spaces is when you look at the Bill of Rights, there's a list of things the government can't stop you from doing, right? And then there's some laws that have been upheld that kind of infringe upon those rights. But for the most part, when you're in public spaces, the idea is that you play the middle, right? Like you do what's normal.
I need you to educate me for the point I'm trying to make. She is a Democrat, and that is her district.
Well, forget that. This is just some promo thing. I don't.
Well, I need to understand something. How much does a representative of a district make on their salary?
178-ish.
Really? So that's all. That's. I thought that was just like.
That's federal.
That's federal, but I thought that was like. Oh, I guess that's right. So 100 it is like 178.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she makes. If you get offered a job for 178 a year, but you got to win it, so she goes out and gets elected. Wouldn't you want your constituents to be the stupidest people possible? I'm being dead serious. Wouldn't you want them to be the most ignorant, out of touch with what's good and bad people? It would be so easy to dupe them. It'd be.
You're totally triggering me right now.
It would be so easy to live your life. It'll eventually come to an end because you'll just create a city so stupid that you have to, a district so stupid that you can't run it like that anymore. But wouldn't you just want your people to be so stupid?
It happens all the time. Like, okay, so
that's an extreme example.
The way politicians do that is they create single issue voter bases. So you take something that's really polarizing that you have a majority in your district, and then that's all you hit all the time. Eminent domain. My views on eminent domain are irrelevant to you. I'm pro-abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Taxation. Who cares about taxation? Just make sure we fund abortions, or make sure we, are anti-war. There's always 5 or 6 flash pan issues that the two parties are polar opposites, and you end up with those single issue voters, which is how you end up with like the Clinton, Obama uniparty, Bush uniparty is. Everybody's just voting on 3 issues, but all the important issues are they're colluding. And so that does happen. Is people create districts where they have issue
can
voters.
guarantee a win.
Yeah, they have issue voters.
Yeah. They don't really care about the outcome. They just care that they get that sweet 178 a year plus the other perks of being.
And they constantly talk about it.
In
One of the Diamond and Silk have a great deal. They go down to Maxine Waters' district and they call it the Democrats. And they go down there and they're like, homelessness. Like basically, she was elected in the 80s or whatever. And it's like, what have you done?
Fair? Can we be fair and say that we actually want Democrats? What we have right now are not Democrats.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah, we want Democrats.
Yeah,
Democrat's a totally normal person. These are not Democrats.
They're not.
These are morons. These are progressive,
socialist, communist.
These are not Democrats.
I think it's fair just to call them postmodernists.
It makes you just want people like Bill Clinton back.
It makes your skin crawl.
Yeah.
It makes you look at our president and just go, he's the only one, because he'll just punch back and he just will not.
You want to know what makes me feel okay about all the bad stuff that's going on is I believe in my belief system that people get their just desserts.
Okay.
One way or another, and they can do a lot of damage along the way till they get their upcomings, but it always comes to an end for whatever you were doing. If you were working on a path of what could be considered righteous or right, and someone else is working on a path what would be considered wrong or evil, it comes to an end for both parties, but one of them is at the top of the mountain, the other one's back at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can get a progressive president after Trump 2020. I think Trump's going to win a second term. After him, we could get a really shitty progressive because the voters want to swing the opposite direction of Trump. And it could be 8 years of hell that has to be repaired over the next 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
But think about it on a micro level, and if you just keep doing your thing...
That's kind of what we got with Obama is Bush.
It was the exact opposite.
He didn't govern very conservative, so he lost his conservative base. The Republican Party fractured with the Tea Party, which opened the door for Barack Obama because it was a fractured party, very similar to what the Democrat Party is doing now.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so. I think people get their upcomings just because that's how my life has been. I mean, I don't have everything I've always wanted, but I've got a lot of things I never wanted that turned out to be pretty good. Like, I just done the right thing, and through some pretty sweet nepotism, got a pretty cool job. And long story short, I'm a 50% owner in the company. I mean,
I thought this was pretty cool. So let's change topics. Let's move away from the transvestite and move to something that I think is kind of positive.
Is there some positive things we're going to talk about?
Yeah, this is positive. So check this out. So this is Mike Pence.
Can we turn my headphones up at all?
Yeah. So Mike Pence, the Irish Prime Minister brought his boyfriend to meet Mike Pence.
But I also knew at the time that I lived in a country where
if I
tried to be myself at the time,
it would have ended up breaking
We can
laws.
hear him.
But today, that has all changed. I stand here, leader of my country,
He's
flawed and human,
He's a gay
but
man.
judged by my political actions and not by my sexual orientation, my skin tone, gender, or religious beliefs. And I don't believe that my country is the only one in the world where this story is possible. It's found in every country where freedom and liberty are cherished. We are, after all God's children. And that's true of the United States as well, the land and home of the brave and the free, where the promise of America inspires boys and girls all over the world to dream big dreams, and inspires others around the world to do the same.
He's Ireland's first openly gay prime minister. I just thought that was a cool story. Like, I don't know, Mike Pence takes so much heat for being, homophobic, which he's not. Anybody who talked to him personally, knows him personally, says he's not homophobic whatsoever.
Okay, in my opinion.
He has a religious belief structure.
In my opinion, he's going to be the version of Muslim that says, well, if Muhammad asked you in your scriptures to bring death to the infidel, and I'm defined as the infidel, would you listen to him? Well, yeah, of course I'd have to. That's Muhammad.
Well, but
if Jesus said to forsake the homosexuals, would you do it? Like, well, I kind of have to. I believe in the Bible.
Yeah, sure.
I'm saying it from that point of view.
Sure.
That deep down, he's doing the right thing, and I think he wants to do the right thing.
trust me, I know a lot of people who would do anything if Jesus asked them to do it. But you can rest assured, Jesus is not going to come ask him to do anything.
Well, it's because he's not real.
Ah,
That's like Santa. I mean,
he's just Mike Pence is a religious zealot, and but by every token, he seems to be a good guy. I just thought this was pretty cool. Here he is with an openly gay prime minister. The other thing that's significant that the Trump administration, with Mike Pence included in that, has done is the first gay ambassador from America. Our ambassador to Germany is a gay man.
okay.
That's just a big deal. So it's really hard to call Donald Trump a homophobic when he picked a gay man to represent the United States at the highest possible levels of government.
I would never, ever discriminate against a homosexual. Ever. I would never not hire them at our company. I would never be mean to them verbally. I probably wouldn't even say anything behind their back, but I would never want my sons to be gay because I feel like I would just lose all connection with them as men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I don't have any reason to believe that. That's just how I feel. If you wanted to really know what's truly in my heart, I'd be disappointed if any of my sons were gay.
Would you be disappointed in your sons or just disappointed in the process of now having to figure that out?
I'd be disappointed in the fact that now I got to figure out how to still be in my son's life. And I know a gay person or anyone out there that'd be listening, be like, you just be in their life like they were when you thought they were hetero. It's like, yeah, but now the next time I want to make a pussy joke to them, it's just going to fall on deaf ears for one and be offensive too. Because now if I know they're gay, I mean, it's like grabbing a beer with your boys and having that first talk about porn or having that first talk about sex or having that first talk just about things that men do. It's like it feels like that's taken away from me. Like that's a thing I want in my relationship with my kids.
So I'll offer a perspective. I remember my good friend with the Ford Bronco 2. He told me when he left the church.
You got to get real low to realize how good you have it.
Yeah. But when he left the church, it took him about a year, and during that time, he was making a documentary video that everybody was praising him for about the church and telling him how great he was and how spiritual everything was.
Mm-hmm.
And then after it was done, the very last 5 minutes of the thing, he says the church isn't true, and I've just led you to this point where now you know the church isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
And his family was like, "You've gone dark. The Spirit's left you." And he's like, "I did this a year ago.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing this a year. So everything up until this point, right, nothing's changed." So I would just say, I offer their perspective. Like, let's say you had a son come out to you. He didn't just become gay last night. So every joke you've made to him that didn't land on deaf ears that he chuckled at. So now it's all what you project.
If he really thought it was funny to say those things, then it'd be fine. But
yeah, so it just means you're going to have to recalibrate, like, for you, because for him nothing changed yesterday to today, other than the fact that he's just being honest.
If one of my kids came to me and said, "Dad, I'm gay," I would like to think my immediate reaction would be to put my arm around him and say, "I still love you, and you're not doing anything wrong." But just on a personal level, like, I don't want my boys to be gay. It's like I don't need to explain it because it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to explain why I feel that way. I'm not taking a pro stance on one way or the other because I don't think there's anything wrong with homosexuality from a moral standpoint. I just don't think as many people are gay as we think there are. And I think a lot of young men are confused along the way and do stupid things because they're lost.
Yeah.
But it's just people without sons really wouldn't understand what I'm saying right now, but it is like a heavy burden to bear. I've got 3 boys, and the odds of one of them being gay in today's age is not in my favor.
It's kind of one of those things. Well, is it that high of a percent that you're worried with 1 in 3?
10% of the population might be gay.
Is it even close to that?
Is it
Can you
close
Google
to 5?
it? Can you Google it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how is that statistic actually reported accurately?
I know like 4 or 5 gay men, but I know thousands of men. So the statistics just don't line up for me.
Well, how many men do you know that are married but are actually gay? Like married to women, but
I don't know
gay?
any married guys that are actually gay.
All right, what
is that even a thing anymore? So I kind of had to go through that with my brother a little bit. I had to make some mental, like, how am I going to deal with this? He ended up not being gay, but he made us all go through the mental exercise of thinking he would be.
All right, so I got it broken down by state here.
Okay.
Can you stop shaking the table? Your knee or something keeps hitting it. Where'd the freaking chart go, man?
I will laugh. I will laugh so hard if like Montana or Wyoming is
All right.
double-digit percentages.
Texas. So, table format. That's what I need. Table format. Here we go. All right. What state do you want to know?
I'll rattle off a few.
I want to start with Texas because that's like the most extreme.
Okay, Texas.
Texas is reported at they break this thing down. I just want to know how many of them are gay. LGBT adult population. So
Okay, just percentage of non-cis,
yeah,
which is the
all right.
the
So for
most-
Texas,
man, they
out of
anticipate-
28.7 million people in Texas, there are 873,000 LGBT
does it break it down to percent?
in several categories. But what is that percentage-wise? Out of 28.7 million, 873,000.
$27 million.
Yeah, just 28 million.
0.032.
What's 10%, 2.8, 5% is
So 3%.
yeah, 3%.
Okay, so
And on the chart that I saw when I first brought this up, because it was easier to read the other way, it was between. Well, maybe if I go to the printed one, it was between. Here we go. It was between 3. Oh, I see. All right, Alabama 3%, Alaska 3%, and then so on. 5% in California, 10% in DC. Let's see. I'm just looking for some high ones here. 5% in Massachusetts. Nevada has 5%, but that's where Vegas is. Oregon has 5%. Washington is 5%. The highest one was the high 5%ers. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. That's millions of people.
So in Washington, what's the numbers in Washington?
Oh, the numbers. In Washington, it is 5%. It's 303,000 out of they're reporting 7,500,000 adults.
If we could just get all of them to watch our YouTube channel, we could
Why?
just have a gay YouTube channel.
You know what?
Gaytube.
I think homosexuals
Do
have.
you think that web address has been taken?
Yeah, I'm
Gay
sure.
porn or gay
Not porn. I think homosexuals have a bad rap because of
Gaytube?
because of where they came from in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. They came from like super queer, super lispy and feminine, and dude, I guarantee you there's gay men out there that can beat the fuck out of me.
Oh, sure.
So it's like they get this bad rap that they're bad people and they're weird because that was the pool you had to choose from when you were,
I'll tell you what, man. If all I ever had to judge from was like the gay people I met in Brazil.
Yeah, if all you ever had to judge from was the Puerto Rican gay pride parade, it's like that is not a good representative to me of what gay people are like. We each shared a set of neighbors that were gay, and they had their shit together way more than we still have our shit together.
So my son asked about them
Okay.
this week. So yeah, we used to have some neighbors that were gay. Super great people, loved them to death. But they moved out. They were like uncles to my kids.
They were like the far right stereotype of gay people. They were rich. They had their shit together. They like wouldn't leave the house unless they had a button down shirt on.
One of them was from mainland China.
Yeah.
Lived through the fallout of Mao's concentration camps. So he was a communist outcast, outcry. And then the other one was from South Carolina, and he was a accountant for Shell Oil.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Good dudes. Anyway,
Great
your
dudes.
son asked about him.
Anyway, so my son was just like, "Hey, so Michael and Scott," like he didn't know they weren't married. He just asked like, "What was the deal?" My wife goes, "Oh, they were roommates." And he's like, oh, okay. And I could see the wheels turning in his head, like, oh, that's an option. Like maybe when I grow up, maybe Fisher and I will be roommates or something. I'll buy a house with another guy because my son's like 9, right? It'll be fun. And I had to like interject. I said, well, Ben, they were roommates, but you want to get married. And he goes, yeah, I want to get married. Okay. Like I didn't want. I'm not going to explain it, but I'm like,
you didn't explain to him that they were gay.
No, because he doesn't even know what sex is. So there's really no like.
Well, you don't have to. So when we lived there, my kids were 6 and 7. I broke it down for them because they were curious. I was like, super nice people. They're gay though. Like what? And I'm like, you know how me and Mom kiss? Well, those 2 guys kiss, and they're like, oh,
what?
It didn't bother them because they didn't.
Yeah.
They have no sexuality in them. Like, oh, okay. I'm like, they're super nice guys. Just don't go over there alone because they're adults. I don't want my kids going around really any adults alone. Had nothing to do with them being gay.
Yeah.
And it's just like that friend they used to play with that is a transvestite. I'm like, that's a girl.
Yeah.
That boy is a girl. No, it's a boy. I was like, ask him. And my wife is just getting heated at me because she doesn't want to start a neighbor fight. And I'm like, hey, if you're going to, from my perspective, force your child to be transgender, then you better take the heat that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Because I believe they're forcing that kid to be a transgender.
It's definitely a weird deal. All right, here's another one. This is Detroit.
Keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling. Okay, so so this is Detroit. There's probably not going to be any talking or anything, but this is just some guys that are on drugs.
Got this shit. I don't want it.
Man, those guys. So these guys are just high on drugs, whatever, in Michigan. And, I'm old enough to remember when the police pretty much across the country used to go pick up people like this, public intoxication. And man, I don't know what is up with some of these cities that just think that this is okay to just have in public and just in plain sight. It is just so odd to me. Anyways, there's that. All right, so
Shaking the dew off the lily.
just these drug users out in broad daylight. What's up? What's up with this, man? Like this is Detroit. So the Janie Army girl writes, 53 years of Democratic control, and Detroit is the second highest violent crime rate. Homeless rate is 20,000 people with only 1.9 thousand, so 1,900 beds and shelters each night. 25% children, 13% veterans, 60% families. These guys look like zombies. Unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was noting, it just seems like these big cities, Seattle, San Francisco, obviously Detroit. I've seen stuff in other cities as well. Like, where's the law and order? Like, I'm old enough to remember that public intoxication was like actually a charge. Like, people just got picked up.
Well, I think, for one, they're probably overpopulated to be just picking people up and throwing them in jail overnight, or even putting them in the system in general if they're on drugs. And 2, there's probably more dangerous people for the Detroit police to go chase around than people that are high on the streets.
So what do you think about like the broken windows method of law enforcement?
Well, let's explain to the listeners what that is.
Okay.
So the broken windows method is, let's say you have a neighborhood and the windows are broken out of a building. Like, let's say a business went out of business, and instead of plywooding the windows up and taking care of the structure, you just let it go to shit. Well, the long and skinny of that theory is the neighborhood's going to go to shit because that building went to shit and it attracts shit. So what do we think about that theory?
Okay.
I mean, that's basically what it is. If you let your front yard go to crap, your neighbor's yard goes to crap, and it brings in the drug dealers, and it brings in it's basically saying the appearance of something can attract crime. So
that's not it. Let me explain what it is. Let me explain what it is. So the broken windows theory of law enforcement is the idea that, okay, so say you've got like New York City when Giuliani got elected. You got muggings, all kinds of crime, all kinds of stuff. And the going thought at that point had been go after the big stuff, go after the larceny, go after the murders.
Let me just say it in one paragraph so we don't waste time. The broken windows theory is a criminological theory that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder.
Okay. So basically what happens is they go chasing after the murderers, and then the little mischief stuff just kind of goes and goes and goes.
But
and
it
goes.
actually is a big deal.
Well, what they found was this. Most people don't commit murders in the daylight, and they run. You know, most people don't mug.
That's cricket. That's cricket
it's
out
cricket.
there.
Most people don't do muggings in the daylight. Like, people, when they do the stuff that they get put in jail for, they do it, you know, on the DL, and they try to run from the cops. But when it's things like graffiti, when it's things like, you know, shoplifting, jaywalking, do it in the open.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they found was they would pick up everybody, graffiti, pick them all up. And then they ended up picking up all the rapists at the same time, because all the rapists were also doing graffiti, right? They were all breaking windows. Anytime there was a property crime, man, it was easy to chase down property crimes. You got fingerprints on the broken glass. You got all kind, you know, easy to chase those guys down. And then they were taking all the riffraff, because if you're breaking windows, what else are you doing? So the broken windows idea of property crime was go after the easy stuff to get, the mischief. And what you find is the people who do the mischief are almost universally doing the big crimes, because you don't do big crimes, but you don't even litter.
That's not
right?
what the broken windows theory is. That's just what happened when you picked up small offenders.
Well, that's why they call it the broken window. You go after the breakers of the windows. You go after the little like the hooligans. You don't put the entire, like, obviously you go after murders, but the idea was when the little stuff got cleaned up, not only did you create an environment where criminals don't want to exist, but more than that, you actually picked up the criminals.
Yeah, but the broken windows theory is that when you have a shitty area to track shit, not that.
Well, but this is this isn't about property quality. This is purely like when you're talking about enforcement of law. So they call it the broken window theory, because most police departments, when you have like a property crime, trespassing, you get a report, you get a number, and unless the guy shows back up, they don't chase it. What Giuliani did was he says, "Oh no, you break a window, we're going to do fingerprints on the window. We're actually going to catch the kid who broke the window."
That way, if the person is guilty of that, they're at least guilty of that.
Yeah, and so then as they're bringing everybody in for petty crimes, major crime rate in the city dropped dramatically. And they go, "What happened?" Well, we got all the guys that were doing the muggings, which were the serious thing that was preventing tourists from coming. They were just the graffiti kids.
So what are you saying? We just get like some really high-tech street sweeper and just start picking these dudes up?
You know, it's such a complex problem, right? Because why is the homeless? You know, is it jobs? Like what?
That's why conspiracy theorists exist.
Yeah. Well,
because maybe it's not a complex problem. Maybe it's on purpose. Maybe we have to have designated cities where all the shitty people live. That's
terrifying.
Well, I would say it's just life. I mean, they're addicted to drugs. That's not a conspiracy. They're not going to leave. I mean, why? I mean, what would be just in their life? What would be like their motivation to move to Colorado? It's like they're there. They live there. They were raised there. They're addicted to drugs. They have a way to get their drugs. They have a reward system for getting the drugs.
Yeah, we talked. No, it was Pat and I had talked about this, but it was like the incentive program, like really easy way. And I don't know if this is really going to work, and this is going to make me sound like a total jerk, but it's like, close all the shelters. Close all the shelters and stop giving away any free food. In 3 days, all those guys aren't going to be as concerned about drugs as they are about food. Changes everything.
I think the reason that it usually never happens is because we just can't do that to the children, because there's homeless children.
I get it.
So you would be hurting people who have nothing to do with their homelessness.
Do you want to know what I think the real reason is? Because we hurt kids all the time as a nation.
Okay.
I mean, we do lots of things to hurt the kids. I think what the real reason is because you would have to have some tough love, but I think the real reason is because they actually enacted policies that cause these problems.
Sure.
And so it's kind of like you just keep wanting to fix and fix and fix and not go back and undo. Like, how did we get here? Let's undo how we got here.
Well, we know how we got there, at least from my perspective, is we took
close the mental health.
Yeah, Detroit specifically. We had a thriving economy and just shut it down overnight.
There's a lot of. I mean, it's well, follow me on this narrative. Okay. In the 1980s, the ACLU sues the federal government and says that you're holding people with mentally handicapped people in your mental institutions, and they can't get out because you've committed them to government care without their consent, and now they have no way to get out, and they could get out. So the ACLU said you're violating a series of rights, and so the ACLU won that case, and so the federal government had to shut down all their mental institutions like that, out onto the streets. So schizophrenia, all that used to be go to the institution. Now they're out on the streets. So 1980s, phase 1, homeless problem, mental institutions got let out. So now we take all the programs that we're putting into the mental institutions that care for these people, and we start redirecting those policies, programs, money specifically into homeless-type shelters. You know, every time money moves, there's an opportunity for someone to get their hand in it, right? So we start a whole new series of things. And then in the 1990s, you get the crime bill where Bill Clinton and William Barr and George H.W. Bush, all of them were involved in it. They, you know, real strict enforcement on drug policies. That's where you get people with crack, they get 20 years, cocaine, you get 5. And then you get NAFTA, which kills the Midwest.
Here's why.
So it's a series of those 3 things. ACLU goes after the mental institutions. Then you get increase in drug offenses for being a user, all that, the crime bill in the 90s. And then you get NAFTA, which shuts down the factories. So it's like bam, bam, bam in a 10, 15-year period.
So we have all these problems. I'm not going to help them because I don't help those that don't help themselves, and I don't help those that lie to me about wanting help. So you had your experiences over the last few years that I kept telling you, like, what in the world are you doing? This dude is never going to change.
Yeah, I did.
You kept trying to help people, and I'm like, why are you giving money to this person? You're like, well, they're in need. They need to get to Oregon. And then you see them on the street the next week and the week after that and the week after that with the same goddamn sign.
Dude.
And the same story. And I'm like, fuck them, man. I mean, someone would be like, you're so cold-hearted. And I look at it and think, those people are never going to get better unless they make themselves better. And it's like, how do you pull on your own bootstraps when you don't have boots? It's like, I don't know, man. But you're not letting me put boots on you.
So
you're not letting me even buy you a pair of boots and put boots on you to pull your own bootstraps
So
up.
I regularly pick up hitchhikers. I probably do it. I bet it's average at least once a week. I pick up a hitchhiker.
He's going to die someday.
And I don't give money to panhandlers as much as I used to. Almost not at all, unless I just really get hit with the emotional bug. But I did.
You're really still picking up hitchhikers once a week?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you've been doing that nonstop for the last 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Most hitchhikers I pick up are getting gas. They ran out of gas.
Okay.
I pick up a lot of. I pick up a surprising amount of guys in suits.
I've had some things surprise me in my life, and I'll tell you, I'll be blown away if a case comes out where I show up to work one morning and you're not here, and I get a phone call from the Poulsbo Police Department saying they have one John Attackis James Taylor in custody. Taylor James in custody.
For what?
I guess it would technically be labeled prostitution. I've been giving people rides once a week.
As a John. I would be the John.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been giving people rides once a week, and they I don't ask for payment, but they feel like they have to pay me something, and so I let them.
I've only been offered payment one time. I've only been
that
offered
type of
one
payment,
time.
like karaoke payment, like they want to sing you a song.
No, like you want to go on a date type payment.
Really?
Yeah.
By a man or a woman?
Woman.
Was she ugly?
Oh yes, and definitely mentally ill for sure. If not, just deep in the crazy category. Did I tell you about this girl? I've told everybody about it.
No, but
so,
I mean, I'm already filling the blanks in here. I've
I've
already told the story in my head. We might as well hear it from your mouth, I guess.
I picked her up in Quilcene, or I picked up her in Brennan, right
Okay.
across the street from that gas station. Sometimes we get food at in Brennan, right where the.
You see no risk in that at all.
Well, I saw her. She's 60 to 70-year-old woman. Okay. Obvious grandmother. Just you can just tell. Just
What race was she?
she's white.
Okay.
67-year-old woman. Side of the road, hitchhiking. We're in super rural Washington.
And she asked
This
you
is not
for
a homeless
date?
person. So
I'm
hey, do you
dying to
wanna
get
ride?
to the punchline here.
You're gonna have to wait for it. You want to ride? She gets in, and she wants to go like 45 minutes down the road, like the next town, but it's like.
And you
way out
realize
there.
you've committed to a 90-minute round trip.
At the
now.
end of the day, I'm like, whatever. It was like gonna rain, I just felt I was, okay. So she got in. I took her down,
Did
and
she stink?
she did stink. Yep,
Like
she
what?
did
Like
stink.
like smoke, bo,
Uh,
marijuana, what?
No, probably
Just dirty.
Duffy, like dirty. Yeah, just musty, moldy. Smelled
Mold-
more moldy. Like
wet
her clothing
clothes,
was moldy. Yeah.
Ugh,
So,
okay.
and the stuff we brought. So I pick her up, right? I'm like, hey, jump in. And she's like, okay. And then she goes around like down into the ditch, and she brings out like a big keyboard. And then something else with a blanket, like a big horse blanket wrapped around it. And she's like throwing this stuff in my truck. And I'm like, holy cow. She's like, I'm taking this to my daughter's house. She's got like a picture. Like, you know how I look when I come back from the Goodwill with stuff like this? That's what it looked like. I was picking her up with just knick-knacky stuff and a big keyboard. And I'm like, all right. So we start driving. Tells me all about her life. She's crazy. She was raised by crazy people. She married a crazy guy. She had a couple kids. Kids seem to be okay, at least according to her. Everybody's crazy. She's freaking crazy. She was out at the coast a week ago saying hello to whales as they were waving at her with their fins. And finally we get to where I'm like driving faster and faster.
You're trying to make the ride over.
I cannot keep the conversation up. It is just, we're out of it. And then right as we're like just a few minutes away from the town where she wants to go, she looks at me and she goes, I haven't had a date in a while. Do you want a date for this? And I just go, no, I'm good. Like, no, dude, I know exactly what you're asking me. I'm not interested. This is the only time I've ever been offered on hitchhiking.
I'm slightly.
I get offered money all the time. People want to give me $5 or $20 for giving them a hitchhike, but
I'm slightly turned on.
you wouldn't be.
But for the most part,
Dude.
I'm disgusted.
Dude,
I'm disgusted. So here's why I would never pick up a hitchhiker, especially a woman. One, I don't want there to even be the appearance that I'm trying to be a John.
okay.
So that's rule number one. And rule number two is I don't want to wind up skinned alive somewhere. And rule number three, I mean, I could just make up rules all day long. There's enough reasons to just rule 78.
There's a lot of reasons not to do it, but it always goes through my mind every time. If I ran out of gas, broke down, whatever, and I'm humping down the highway with thousands of cars driving by me.
Would never happen.
Huh?
It would never happen because you'd call me, or you'd call your wife, or you'd call a friend.
Sure,
You
I'll do
you
all of those things. Everybody I
But
pick
what
up.
if he's out of cell
Hold on.
reception?
Everybody.
You would walk to the nearest home and pick up a phone.
Everybody I pick up has gone down that list. They've called everyone they know that's nearby. They've called.
You know why they didn't get help? Because they burned all those bridges already.
No, dude, some of the people I pick up are just like you and I. They are totally normal people. Totally normal people. Absolutely. At least 50% of the people I pick up hitchhiking, at least 50%, they're just simply got some car issue going on. And it scales. It scales from guys in suits that are, like their Porsche got something issue. You can't start their Porsche, something like that, all the way down to like, I didn't put gas in my car because I left my house with 50 cents in my pocket.
Okay, so here's what we're going to enact. We're going to call this segment of Twitter. It'll be Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook because you'll post it to all of them. We'll call this segment Days of Our Lives or Last Days of Our Lives or something. And everyone you say you're doing it on average once a week. You take a selfie with them and you post about it on your media because that's the only way we're going to find your killer. That's the only way we're going to find your killer.
So I've thought about. So do you remember Troy Olds?
Yes.
So he did that one time. He took a selfie with some homeless guy he was helping out, and I remember thinking, it just felt disingenuous. Like I have that scripture in my mind where it's like, if you do it,
take a selfie.
If you do it for praise,
yeah.
then you've received your reward. The reward was the praise of men. If you do it in silent and you just do it to help your fellow brother, then that's positive karma. That's I don't want the praise of men. I can get that other ways. I want that good karma. I legitimately want the karma that when my mom breaks down or something, that a good person picks her up instead of a killer. That's it. I'm just trying to put the karma in my favor.
Let me think of all the times I've ever needed somebody. First time I was 17 or 18, maybe I was out of high school, and we got stuck in the snow about 2 miles from the main road. So nothing death-defying. I mean, we could have just walked to the main road. It had taken 30 minutes or whatever. We're in the mountains. But it's snow, like up to your belly button. And we're fucking around, four-wheel driving, and get stuck. Throw the reverse out of my stick shift, like grind the gear out. So there's no going backwards anymore. Only forward from here on out. And so a couple cross-country skiers came by us, made it back to their Tacoma, drove back up to us, tried to pull me out, but their truck was just too light, didn't have enough weight. So then they gave me a ride in the bed of their truck to the main highway and dropped me off. And I thumbed down a guy who just stopped. No. He was already there with his kids sledding, and I interrupted their sledding trip and said, me and my two buddies were about 2 miles in, and we're just stuck. And a Tacoma tried to get us out. He came in with his half-ton truck and pulled us out, kindness of his heart. That's so much different than a dude walking down the road with his thumb out. First off, if he looks normal, I may pick him up. I may. If he's in a suit and I have nothing better to do, I may pick him up. I just can't imagine the scenario where once a week.
Yeah, I pick a lot up on Hansville Highway. There's a lot of people I pick up that literally I give a ride from the gas station to Albertsons to the park and ride, like just far enough to get to the bus. A lot of people are just on that. And I rarely go out of my way. I say, I'm heading here. Where do you want me to drop you off? So I drop a lot of people off as I turn right on Bond. A lot of people. So there's a couple people that I pick up every time I see them.
I get let's not talk about repeats.
No, I want to tell you about the repeats, because the repeats are the ones that are like, they're the ones that deserve it the most. So let me tell you about two repeats. I
guarantee one of them is the long-haired Indian.
Yes. Yep. Well, he's the only repeat.
Oh, okay.
The other repeat was the one that you knew that took advantage of me over and over again.
I said Indian, and I don't want anything. He's a Native American.
Yeah. So that one that I took, the one that would stand outside, and he's my dog and my family, I'm a vet, blah, blah, blah. And then I gave him some money, and then one time I pulled into the parking lot where he was, because he just looked so bad because he was so run down. And I was like, hey, man, is there like a way I can really help you? Like, what are you trying to do? And he's like, well, I got my RV over there. And he points across at the mall, and there's an RV in the mall parking lot. And he's like, got my RV over there, and we're really trying to make it down to Oregon. Really, all I need to do is fill up my tank, and then we can go. It's like, okay, well, get your RV, and let's go to that gas station, and I'll fill you up. So we did. Got in his RV, and this was like an ordeal, freaking loading back into his RV. Drove down to the gas station, gave him a full tank of gas, and I think I gave him my business card. Like, if you run into any trouble, give me a call. I don't know, a couple days later, could have been a week later, I get a phone call. Hey, I was wondering if I could take you up on that extra help. I need another tank of gas. It's like, okay. I'd seen him around town, never left town. He stuck around for like months. I gave him a lot of money over the course of a month or two and filled up the RV full on, like, 100+ gallons of gas. Dude never even left town. I mean, it was just a shtick. That was like a lesson for me to be like, if I see panhandlers on a regular basis, I don't give to them twice. Panhandlers and hitchhikers are different.
Okay, just pick up people.
A hitchhiker's trying to get somewhere.
Just pick up people at
just
your own
asking
risk,
for money.
everyone. Just at your own risk. We are not advising that this is a safe practice.
All right, next, I got another one here. This was my post. 7 things every kid needs to hear.
Didn't I send this to you through Instagram?
Did you? I don't think. Maybe, I don't know. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I'm listening. Communism has failed every time it's tried, and you've got what it takes. I love it, man.
Yeah. You know what's when I maybe didn't send this to you, but when I first saw this, I thought number 6. I thought, you know what? Communism keeps resurfacing its face because it's actually a principle people want. It just is impossible to get it to work.
So everybody wants utopia.
Yeah, it's a utopia.
Yeah, everybody wants utopia.
the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wants to
They all
practice
want
communism.
utopia. I mean, every religion, the goal is this peace, perfection.
I got into a fight with a staunch LDS guy about it once because he's a hardcore Republican and was just livid that I was insinuating the church would be communist in the last days.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what about when you have to share with your fellow man regardless of how you feel about it? The church is forcing you to. And he just...
I understand that's so much more nuanced now. He could have just been like, no, libertarian.
It's not. You're forced, or you're not a part of the last fold.
Forced is the word.
You are forced. You are forced. It's not a choice. Okay, you can choose not to give to your fellow brother that needs help, but you will not be included in the last days. You will not make it into the celestial kingdom.
That's fine. Still not forced.
You're
can't-
coerced. You're coerced. Okay.
Well,
if you want to make
coercion.
it into heaven, that's what you're doing.
So coercion's not a bad thing. That's just a fancy word for convincing someone to make a choice.
That's not convinced. No. If you don't suck my dick, I'm going to blow your brains out with this gun.
Still not forced.
It's the same thing, man. So I
actually want to clarify something like indefinitely. Okay. Anytime you're rewarding somebody with something good, like, hey, you can come live in utopia if you do this, but they still have a choice. No matter how good the reward is, they have a choice. That's not bad. That's not coercion. That's not holding. That's just the nature of the rules that we've apparently decided to play by. You do this, and you get a reward, good or bad. I think that when it's like the bad kind of coercion is the gun to your head kind of coercion, like the punishment. I don't think there's a difference between telling somebody to do this or else punishment versus do this or else lack of reward.
If you believe
lack of reward is not a punishment. It's just lack of the reward.
The punishment is being in your own personal hell for eternity for not giving up your wealth to your fellow man that is in need. Because if you don't go to Celestial Kingdom, according to LDS people, you will not be in the presence of God.
We should save this for our LDS podcast, but you've already screwed that up like 4 times.
I haven't. I haven't screwed it up. That's exactly how it is.
Well, the deeper you dive into that stuff, the semantics and the exactly what words were said by the former leaders makes a big difference. Like using the word force versus choice, using the word, like all those things start to actually matter when you're getting down to the brass tacks of do we have free will or not? Like, because that's okay. So going to this, the communism has failed every time. Sure, everybody wants to live in utopia, and everybody, wants the outcomes that you would get through communism. So all of the advertised outcomes,
if they happen, are amazing.
Yeah, all of the advertised outcomes are awesome, but it all boils down, like, do you want communism or do you want advanced libertarianism with volunteerism? See, that's the other thing. You throw in volunteerism, that works. We see it work. We see it work in churches. We see it work all the time. There have been lots of small communities that have completely eliminated poverty, eliminated want, eliminated hunger, eliminated no clothes on your back. There's lots of small communities all over this country where there's not a single homeless person. There's not a single person that's so disadvantaged, I mean, we know communities like this. Like,
sure.
How many really disenfranchised people are there in Mountain Home compared to Seattle, right? Like, not a lot of actually homeless people in Mountain Home. I'm sure there are, but you get what I'm saying. There's small communities can pull it off. How do they pull it off? They pull it off with a mix of volunteerism through churches and stuff like that. So, okay, why people want communism, though, over something like that, I think it always ends up going back to that fundamental free will versus determinism choice. If you have determinism instincts, then determining the outcome is more important, right? It seems like you lean towards that more totalitarian top-down, look, we just got to get it right.
Sure.
And so we can force it right, because if we force it right by virtue,
I get you, man.
yeah.
This is just making me sick to talk about so much politics. I just don't get it, man. Go to the news, just whatever your news feed is. Like when you go to search, and you can click on news.
Okay. So there's trends. I don't know.
Is it different on the computer than it is on your phone?
It is.
Oh, well, I'm just in the news feed, just the general news feed.
Okay.
Young whale dies after consuming exorbitant amount of plastic trash.
Here, just retweet it.
retweet it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just is the word I'm not familiar with here.
It's the little circle thing. Just hit it.
Yeah, there. And I go to the text message symbol.
No, not the text message symbol. The two little arrows.
Share tweet. No.
The two little arrows. Just this.
Oh, it's like a circle,
Yeah,
like a
just hit it.
square.
Just hit it.
Retweet. Ah.
Look at that. There you go. Okay, so a young whale died of dehydration and starvation after consuming 88 pounds of plastic bags. You know what? I saw this, and that is a. I get so hung up on headlines.
Okay, so I just saw it.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about why are we fooling ourselves that the ocean is clean?
Are we? Is
Yeah.
someone I guess I did.
So I watched this documentary a couple years ago about pirates out. I don't remember where it was. Somalia, off the coast of Somalia.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a bunch of people who have chosen to live on the water because they were safer there than living on land. They were pirates, but they weren't the type of pirates that steal from other people. They were just floating around in the ocean, but they could only go in certain times of the day because of the pollution in the water. And it was just a sea of bottles, like a sea of cups and bottles and things that float on top of the water.
Okay.
And it was like it's possible they could be in a part of the ocean where the currents just gather shit.
Yeah.
But I don't like what this article is trying to do. It's trying to get people on a bandwagon to clean up the seas. But at the same time, they still want to go to the grocery store and have everything bagged. Like, people aren't buying reusable bags. No one's going to go through that effort. They'll see this and feel sad for the turtle with the straw in the nose and all that. But they'll never go down and buy canvas bags that they can reuse over and over again at the grocery store.
So let me ask, this is great. We mentioned littering earlier, right? So you remember
Did
the
we?
litter bug campaigns, Don't Be a Litter Bug in
Yeah.
the 90s?
Heavy fines.
Big
too.
deal for us, though. Like, growing up, we were so
It was like
impressionable.
$2,000 fine.
Can you litter on the ground, like, with conscious? Like, can
Well,
you
no.
just... I can't.
It's a bad idea to do it.
It's a bad idea, but yet our parents could just do it. I remember going down to Brazil, and I remember I had, a woke companion, someone who's...
Well, in theory, each generation progressively gets smarter.
Sure, but I'm just saying, I remember my companion, right? 20-year-old
Just throwing
man,
crap
remember,
on the
that just
ground.
opens a candy, a Snickers, and just hucks
yeah.
this. Like, unbelievable to me. Unbelievable.
Was where you were dirty.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't going to contribute to it. Like,
So
'cause-
he wasn't throwing trash on the ground of a nice, clean neighborhood.
No, but the point was he didn't even recognize that wasn't okay. Like,
He had
The-
never been
the-
taught that that's
the
part
thought,
of the problem.
yes, the thought that he should put his discarded Snickers wrapper into his pocket until we got home or he saw a
Yeah.
trash can it had not even computed in him that what he had done was wrong. So now when I look at the beach full of garbage, I'm like, oh, it's literally individual choices to litter.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, that's a million individual assholes
Oh,
who
sure.
threw their wrapper on the
Yeah,
ground.
I'm not
So-
insinuating that it was a corporation making the sea dirty.
No, but in the United States, generally, our water pollution level has gone down to totally controllable. You can go stand at any headwaters in the United States and watch the water come out, and you will see not a lot of trash making it through.
Yeah.
We've just done a good job in general
The
of
Puget Sound is clean.
yeah, we've done a good job in general of saying, okay, here's my bag from the store. I'm going to put it in my little recycling spot.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
throw it away. I don't throw it out. In Brazil, people would go to the store and get bags, and then literally just every day they get the garbage picked up. It's on this little wastebasket thing. They just loosely set it on there,
So
and
it could blow
the
away.
wind would just blow it away. That's not just Brazil, but China. They need a stop littering campaign.
Yeah.
They don't need us to outlaw straws. They don't need us
Yeah.
to stop making plastic bags. They need to stop fucking throwing them on the ground.
Yeah, it is definitely the
It starts with individual choices,
Well-
Alexandra Cortez.
What's that? Okay. What's that guy's was it Tim Pool
Tim Pool.
that said the snowflake doesn't blame themselves for the avalanche?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's how all problems happen in the world we live in today. Is it's individual efforts put together to create an avalanche.
It's a lot of individual choices. Yeah.
I feel bad for that will, to be honest. I don't know where it was. Does it say what part of the world it was in?
So yeah, it was in the Philippines, which makes total sense.
I thought the Philippines were super clean. Like I thought they were like, well, cut your dick off if you litter.
No.
I thought you can't even spit gum on the ground at the Philippines.
I think that's Singapore. Very different.
Singapore. It's Singapore.
Very different. Yeah. Singapore, another great example.
Dude, they'll freaking cane you.
So I think Singapore is a great example of like the utopia vision because the outcomes are so regulated, right? But yet high levels of unhappiness, and you and I would hate it there just because we would feel like we didn't have freedom, like we were stymied, we had to fit in the box, right? Like it's an interesting.
Do we really have freedom anyways?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot.
I'm kidding. I'm trying to be like Eeyore.
Oh,
why bother?
why bother? Okay, so how big? So 88 pounds of plastic. Is that really like
Roughly 40 kilos of rice sacks. So, see, it wasn't us. We don't have any. We don't. You know, we're not manufacturing rice over here.
16 rice sacks in total?
Banana plantation bags.
Yeah.
General plastic bags. 16 rice sacks.
Yeah, seriously. Smoking gun plastic here.
Around
Why they
some
shouldn't
people,
have even published this in the United States. They should have just gone straight to the.
Around some people, I'd be considered a Democrat, but I really do believe we need to take better care of our Earth. This idea that we should just give up and go to Mars, like I feel like that's what we're doing.
Hey, we're influential enough. Why is that a Democrat priority? Why is taking care of the Earth? Why have they made that their personal issue?
Because they're generally no business at all. They're not small business or big business. They're anti-establishment, and so they generally on a collective basis don't create as much pollution.
That's okay. I don't think that's fair. I think that's. I think,
but they still contribute in it by buying the car. They just
so I think that is the height of stereotyping that is completely unvalidated. Because if you look at Jeff Bezos, liberal, Democrat, richest man in the world, you used to be able to say industry leaders were the country club Republicans. That's not the case.
Well, he is, but what about all the vendors where all the stuff comes from? That's what I'm saying. Generally, you're a Democrat if you want to be a tree hugger.
So my question is,
yeah,
like I get the generality, but in today's day and age, tree huggers are ineffective. The effective environmentalists are CEOs who build factories that don't pollute as much. That the actual environmentalists are guys like us who manage wastewater strength so that it gets reintroduced into the water. Like we are the real environmentalists.
When you want to stereotype a Democrat and a Republican to label people, you would put environmental conservation with limitations on hunting, because that's probably the only exception. You would put that into a Democrat category.
Okay, so I would say I think we need to change that. I think we need to change it, and here's why.
As far as outdoorsmen goes, it's definitely being changed. I mean, outdoorsmen, hunters, fishers, really anything that has to do with living off the land is a Republican thing.
Well, I would say not just living off the land. I would say right now is a great opportune time for Republicans to step in and say we are actually the party of environmentalism. This environmental justice, like that's the phrase that you hear on their platforms. We want social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice.
Can we just talk about the whale eating a bunch of bags?
That's what this is, man.
You want to just why are we gonna start talking about Republicans and Democrats? Just talk about the goddamn whale. Fuck. Scroll down and just see what else is in the feed with the whale.
There's nothing. It's just plastic bags. There's nothing, man.
It's not like Instagram where if you click on something you like, the next part of the feed is another thing that has to do with that.
You went to CNN. You retweeted.
I didn't go anywhere.
CNN.
I have no control over what we're doing. Like this. So you've already scrolled down.
Well,
I got to learn how to use Twitter. So like when you click on an article on Twitter, it doesn't just keep feeding you.
No. You got to create your own echo chamber there, buddy. Donna Brazil, she's going to Fox News. That's interesting. She's a
Oh, now I remember. Okay, I mean, fuck. I just said let's not get political, but I guess we got to get a little political. So you were telling me before we started this that basically there is no journalist outlet right now to give the truth.
yeah.
Okay, so you are now sounding like the paranoid guy who thinks that, like, if I catch you in your basement in your house with a ham radio, I'm bringing in the big guns and getting a therapist for you.
No, you'll find me like on Reddit in like the subreddit channels.
Dude, I like, you're like, there's just no more truth out there anymore. There's just no one peddling truth. It's just all lies. And I'm like, this poor man.
Well, so what happened was Fox News decided they don't want to do any investigative journalism. They don't want to go after any government corruption schemes. They are trying to buy out Sky News in Europe, and they just don't want to be.
Well, I heard
they
today,
don't want to be controversial in the United States because Sky News is going to be regulated by the European Union. And
I heard today that Fox News and Fox Sports is the only thing not owned by Disney now.
Yeah.
That Disney owns a Fox.
Yeah.
So
they're independent.
yeah.
So it's really sad. It's just kind of like, CNN.
They're going to be
ABC,
reporting
NBC.
something. I mean, it's not like
the what they said was they want to report on breaking news and then basically other news outlets' news, which is great. That's kind of what we're doing, right? So now apparently we compete with Fox.
Every now and then I see a political action done by someone that's not announced in the mainstream media. That gives me faith that we actually have political leaders that are looking out for the best interests of the future of America. So I'm not going to get too hung up on is the media actually telling the truth. Even the best effort, we're still going to get media that shapes our country to think the way we think. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way since the dawn of time.
So obviously, my opinion on that is because it's been that way since the dawn of time. It's the fourth unofficial branch of government that it is critical that you can't have a government that's responsive to the people without an independent press that is pushing them. Because the press, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC,
They're still a
ABC,
press. They're
CBS,
just giving you that illusion.
but that's the thing. It's we the people. So when they give us an illusion that everything's okay and it's not, how deep down the throat of walking through into a Venezuela situation do we get before we realize how many tweakers how many homeless people do we have to have in Seattle taking shits on the ground and injecting with needles before the news goes, we actually do have a homeless problem in Seattle. Like when the media is complicit and when the media becomes propaganda, then how do we, the people who are busy with our everyday lives, the homelessness situation in Seattle will eventually affect us. Do I want to know now or do I want to know when it's out my front door?
Do you want to be on the side that does something about it, or do you want, I guess there's more than two sides. Do you want to be on the side that does something about it? Do you want to be on the side that figures out what to do about it? Or do you want to just continue with your own life? Because me, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm so occupied right now with my own life that if someone were to say, hey, we're putting together a task force to eliminate the homeless population, based off how life has gone for the longest time, I'd say I don't want to be a part of it because it's not going to get anywhere. It might save homeless people every now and then off the streets, get them back on the right track, but
nihilism, man, it's just widespread and rampant.
dude, is there any money in it?
It's gotten to you,
Is
man.
there any money? Is there any money in it?
It's not. You're such a nihilist.
Who's going to pay for it?
Volunteerism. No one pays for it.
I ain't
Everybody pays
volunteering
for it.
any more of my goddamn time for anything. I've volunteered such a large majority of my life doing the right thing that I've volunteered enough for my whole life. I have volunteered enough for my whole life, and it has paid off huge dividends.
And that's it. You don't have to do it anymore.
I'll volunteer time for certain things, but not to go help the homeless.
So pick another topic. I mean, it could be
A
guns.
topic?
How far down gun control do we go? Right, with the media being complicit with all the different things, because what the media does. Let's say something really egregious happens. Oh, New York and Virginia have bills that allow infanticide. You don't know. You don't follow the bills. You don't follow the topics.
But
You're actually pro-life. You vote pro-life. And then one day you're listening to the radio and the governor of Virginia is talking about keeping infants, and you're going, what? Do you really want to wait until infanticide, or would you like to know when the first time a bill comes through that passes that says 30 weeks plus, right? Like the media, the mainstream news is supposed to be our watchdog. It's our eyes and ears into these secret halls.
I
and
agree with you.
chambers.
I'm not. I guess I'm not. I didn't say. What I'm saying is whether they're giving good information or not, it's always going to be. It's circular. It's circular in the way we receive our information because it's the people in the news are not. They're not. It's not like there's one. It's not like Fox News and CNN individually themselves. It's not like Fox News has one brain and everyone's sharing the same thought before they put it out to the public.
Yeah.
It's a collective, and it's. I always come back to Sam explaining to you why the church can't be corrupt because that means his dad would have to be corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that kind of clears it up that it's a collective thing. And it's maybe a bunch of people who think they're doing the right thing.
Well, I thought Tim Pool laid it out like, what is it? 93% of reporters with press passes are registered Democrats. So you're gonna get that side of the story. I'm actually okay with that. I mean, it bothers me, but I don't think there should be any kind of metric. Like, how are you gonna get 50-50? I don't believe in affirmative action. So I don't think a media company should be forced to hire 50-50 or even ask. However, the market says I'm going to pay more attention to news outlets that seem balanced, right? Like, so there's an incentive for them to be fair and balanced or to tell the whole story or whatever. So they do go. Fox News hires Donna Brazile, the former DNC chairman and Hillary's, because they have a legitimate Democrat to say, look, we are showing both sides. As long as they're not muzzling them, then that's good.
Again, I'm emotionally pinned right now because I know I'm not going to do anything about it. I know you're not going to do anything about it. So just how do you personally, emotionally devote yourself to learning these things when you know you're not going to do something about it?
Well, actually for me that's easy because I do have an interest in it generally. The second thing is I do vote. So I very much think that my vote counts. Like my vote has to count as it's collective action. Like,
I believe votes count.
Like the last election when Trump got elected, but we all thought Hillary was going to. I remember being at Falk Road. So who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote? Nobody voted. I got 10 blue-collar workers here. Every single one of them said they would have voted for Trump. He's my guy.
I think that's going to change on this next election. I think so many blue-collar guys are going to show up. Because we see it in our pockets. Guys
that haven't voted their whole lives. I mean, there were guys on that job site that were jacked about Donald Trump that seriously hadn't voted since high school.
I voted once in my life. I voted when I was 18 because it was the quote-unquote the right thing to do, and I went down and didn't know what the hell I was doing. I knew I was voting for President Bush because I was just leaning right. That was it. I had no idea that when you go to vote, there's like up teen people to vote for, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who that guy is, and I'm like, you're panicking because you're like,
I don't know what all this stuff is.
I don't even know who these guys are. I thought I was here to vote for the President of the United States, and turns out you're there to vote for everything all at once.
Yeah.
And
so I follow it, and then the other thing too is obviously I become more and more involved on Twitter.
I'm voting this next term.
Yeah.
Because I think Donald Trump knows that people care about money, and he's like, if I can prove with dollars that I've changed this country, people will vote for me again.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely voting for him again. I didn't vote for him the first time. I didn't vote for anybody. I haven't voted since I was 18.
Yeah.
I'm voting for him this next time because our lives have never been better.
Yeah.
Since he became president, our lives as business owners have never been better.
Was it not like a switch got flipped?
Like a switch.
It was like, boom!
It was like within a 6-month period, things just went from kind of struggling to just perfect.
Perfect. Yep. Just like that. Just boom.
Money started rolling in.
Money's flowing. People
deals
are building
started
houses.
Getting done. Houses are getting built. It's like,
So the crazy thing, I had actually bought into this is the new normal, the Obama new normal, and like the recovery is what it is, and we're so far from the initial part of the recession, and it was like,
it just seems like naturally we'd always be growing.
Dude, our entire adult life has been in a recession. Our entire adult life has been in a recession. Hey, I want to put all you fools in Gen Z on notice, and I want to put all you baby boomers on notice. We be coming for you. We be coming for you. Because we spent the last decade in a recession in our 20s learning how to do business. and you all been comfortable, baby boomers. If this is what it was like for you for the last 40 years, fuck you. And Gen Z, you ain't got no idea how bad it can
Are
get.
the baby boomers our parents or our grandparents?
It's my parents.
So who are our grandparents?
They're also baby boomers.
Okay, so that generation of baby boomers, that's why they tell you, when I was 20, I had a home. And it's like, well, if things were good, if things were this good, I mean, I'm about to buy a home this year. Like, it wasn't even in consideration until last year.
Yeah.
I'm about to buy my first home, and I'm 35.
Yeah, and you've worked hard your whole life.
There's lots of people I know that have owned a home way before me, and they're in my exact generation, so they obviously made way better decisions than I did.
Hold on. It's not better decisions. It's just they checked the boxes on the extremely limited mortgage market. They didn't make better decisions. Their decisions might be worse. They might work for worse companies. They might work for less wages. They might work for worse hours. Hold on.
The people I know that have bought houses were thrifty. They saved their money. They had money for down payments. They didn't renege on their debts, so they had good credit. They made good decisions.
Some of them
got fired and laid off and had to file bankruptcy, lost their house, already owned a house and lost it, lost their cars. Like, that's the obvious that I'm talking about. If things were as good as they are now,
but that's what
for our parents' generation for 20 plus years.
I have seen those people. That's why I say it's not about the decisions you make, because I have seen those people. I have watched people BK out of, get out of cash for keys out of a house, give their cars over to a dealership, roll over $40,000, $50,000 in credit card debt, and 2 years to the day be closing on a home loan.
Yeah.
My best friends down in Puyallup are in that situation.
Yeah.
Best friends. Why? He checked the boxes. He had check.
That's what I mean by good decisions. You know what boxes need to be checked.
But what I'm saying is he made all the bad decisions and just ass backwards when he wanted to buy a house. There happened to be a loan program that he fell into. He didn't make any good decisions to get there. That is, to me, what I call market luck, right?
Well, if he didn't know he was going that direction, then yeah, it is luck. But if they were planning it, then it's not luck. It was choice.
Yeah, no, he wasn't planning.
Okay, well, that's what I mean. You could so
okay, for me, I'm very into mortgages and real estate, right? Okay, I need 2 years, 1099s, and I need to file my returns a certain way. So I do that, and then the rules change, and they're like, no, we can't even do that.
Well, they don't do it that way anymore.
But I'm saying I did it that way for 2 years. I was good to go. Went to go get the red house, couldn't do it. Had to be creative on that because Daddy doesn't qualify for a loan. So then I go.
Yeah, why didn't you qualify?
Because I was 1090. I was self-employed, and they said you cannot. There was a window where you just could not be self-employed.
I'm going to take a side note. Tip to all you business owners out there:
W-2 yourselves.
W-2 yourselves until you buy a home, and then 1099 yourselves afterwards.
Yeah, even though for the last, 30,
and you say why, and it's like,
well, for the last 30 years, you could be self-employed 1099 and get a home loan. But, because of the Frank Dodd Act and a few other things, they basically took all those products off the market.
W-2 yourself, and then when you go apply for anything and they ask employment, you just write down the name of your company. You don't write owner. You don't write self-employed.
Well, that's great for a car loan. For a home loan, they actually look. They will.
Well, they'll look.
No, they will pull the Secretary of State filing. I know because I had to do it as a loan officer. It was part of my package.
Okay.
So you won't be able to say I work for Absolute Earthworks. You'll say I work for Absolute Earthworks and get a W-2. I also own it. And then they'll say, okay, show us your K-1.
Yeah.
You will be doing both.
Okay.
But no, business ownership.
You don't file a K-1 with an LLC.
No, not with an LLC, but you do you don't do anything. You just get your 1099. Yeah. Or your W-2.
You just W-2
but
it.
We don't want to go into details on taxes. But point is, I did that. Then I went W-2, and then I didn't qualify because my W-2 income had to be lower than the 1099 income because then the write-off stayed in the business instead of in me personally.
Right.
So now I don't even qualify for the house that I've been living in for 2 years. Like, you can just get so screwed by those freaking rules, man. Like, I guess I am taking personal the idea that there's good or bad decisions. I think that unless you can just get a job, unless you fall into that very simple category, you can't tell me what a good or bad decision is because it's all based on whether or not I qualify for the mortgage today. I could wait a month and now all what were bad decisions today when I can't qualify were now good decisions because I got another loan program. It's all product based. It's not. I don't know. sorry, I'm ranting. I'm always a little bitter that I haven't. I've like been a part of hundreds of real estate transactions.
Hey,
but
in this conversation, there's two types of people. I believe I don't own a home because of my own fault.
I don't believe that at all.
I 100% believe I don't own a home because it's all the choices I made up to this point. I finally got my shit together and made good choices, and I'm about to own a home.
See, I don't believe that at all. I don't think that any of my choices should have prevented me from owning a home, except for maybe a 1-year period of my life.
Well, I for sure could have owned a home when I was in the military. It was guaranteed.
Yeah.
I was just too stupid to do it because of the fear of owning a home would be locking me down. What if I can't sell it when I get stationed somewhere else? I can't afford 2 mortgages, XYZ. Well, that was from 2005 to 2009. If I would have done that from 2005 to 2007, I would have made money.
You'd have been fine.
I'd made money.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I believe I don't own a home because of my own personal choices. And it sounds like you're pretty bitter about some decisions you've made.
I have been in a position to own a home, income-wise, for a long time. And my limitation on owning a home is not lack of applying. It's not lack of it's like you got to have credit score and you got to have verifiable income, and then the moon has to be right at the same time. And I can always get 2 of them. I can get the moon and the income, but not the credit score. I can get the income and the credit score, but the moon's not right. The programs don't exist. Or, like I'm always in this. Historically, I think it's different now, but I was stuck in like, you can't quite make the the square thing in the round. It's all there. It's all right, but it just can't quite check that box.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other big one was they changed the FHA rules for mortgage insurance. So we were really close. We were really close to buying the pan abode when we first moved in it. When we were we weren't sure what we were doing.
Okay.
And what was the deal there? We had a hiccup. It was USDA. I don't know. There was something dumb. It was like down payment or something. And it was like, oh, mortgage insurance. They changed the rules on mortgage insurance for FHA. So then we no longer could qualify for FHA. It priced us out. And it was like, what the heck? And then we had to go to USDA, which is fine, but it is one of those things where you're just like,
I'll tell you what. I'll be bitter in 3 months from now if I don't qualify for the home I want to qualify for, because I believe I have the income. I believe I know I have the credit score. I believe I have every star lined up right now to get the home I want, because the home I want is not even a mansion.
yeah.
It is what I would consider a starter home for a family, because our inventory is really low right now. So with the lack of inventory, a brand new home is a starter home here. I mean, I'm looking at square footage prices and I'm going out of my mind. I put all the criteria down on the filter. I go and search for it, and it's like, okay, we found you a 2,100 square foot home for $464,000, and it was built in 2005, whenever, and you go and look through all the pictures, and you're like, that is a piece of shit kitchen. That is a piece of shit master bedroom. Who the fuck built this house? That layout, who would want it? But then it's like, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay $464,000 for a home I don't want.
Yeah.
That's what I will be so bitter if I go to buy a home and I just don't qualify for what I need.
Yeah.
I can find plenty of homes that I like, but they're just priced at the $500,000 mark.
Yeah.
Which for some places they're like $500,000 is typical. But
Well, I mean, pricing doesn't. When you're talking about the United States, I mean,
it could go from $100,000 to $500,000 and be the same home.
Yeah, it can.
But it bugs me. It bugs me because I was looking out in Squim and I found some homes and we went and looked at a couple of them and I was like, yeah, those are nice. They were smaller, but they're nice. And then I just for kicks, I looked last night in Pierce County. You get so much more home out there because they've been building out there for a while. They really never slowed down. Like they kept building.
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 less out towards there if you want to live in Spanaway, Puyallup, Auburn, any of those areas, and they're nice houses. I mean, what I would be like more than happy with because it's above my expectations. But then I have an hour-long commute anywhere I go
through traffic,
and it's like, well, what am I? I mean, just the expensive home. I'm just going crazy with how expensive homes are.
It's so funny because when I first moved here, I lived on that side of the water, and I would pay the 50 grand more is to not live over there.
If you can get it into your loan, is what I'm saying. Because I can get the same house over here, but it's
a
just,
little more.
it's going to be 500 instead of 400.
But my point in saying that, like, when I lived over there, the disadvantages of living over there, like, obviously you can make a pros and cons list, whatever your criteria are. But
it's
for
just
me,
busy.
one of the things was I don't love to sit in traffic,
Yeah.
and over there it's not something you do on occasion. It's
every day.
a part of your life.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like you plan to leave your house early enough to sit in traffic. You plan when you the go home from work thing. Do I stay here for an extra hour and shoot the shit, or do I fight
Yeah.
traffic for an hour, or do I just stay here for an extra hour? I remember my wife would ask me to just go get milk, and it would be like an hour and a half. I said, "Where'd you go?" I just went down the store to Albertsons, like a mile and a half.
30 minutes in
down
traffic,
Avondale.
30 minutes back.
Right
plus
when
10, 20 minutes at the
Microsoft
store,
let
yeah.
out, and it's just like, this is unreal. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've sat with me in traffic on the 5
Yeah.
and 405.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, yeah, you go down there, it's fine, but we get stuck in traffic coming back from time to time. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff down there too, though. I don't know.
You just got to get qualified for it. The point being, I understand why people are building homes so much right now instead of buying
Yeah.
already built homes. Because, okay, 450 grand for a decent home right now. How much is a tract of land that's decent? 100. How much is a decent home from a volume builder? 200. You're only 300 into this, and you've got a house that you couldn't get for $500,000, and all you have to account for now are your utility costs for utility hookups and your site development costs. I mean, you're not even going to be in the $400,000 mark if you build your own home, the home you want on the piece of land you want.
Yeah.
From day one, you get to pick out everything.
Yeah.
The color of your counters.
It's really the way to do it if you can.
If you've got 12 months to spare, actually, if you've got more like 15 months to spare because you're going to spend 3 months in permitting, and then you're going to spend a couple months in getting everything ready for the builder, then the builder's going to be on like an 8 or 10 month clock.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, if you got a year to spare, then it's the way to go. And that's the way I'm looking at going, but I'm nervous about it because that's even more of a commitment than just buying a house that already exists. Anyways, anyone else that's out there listening, we're just bitching and moaning and feeling like we had a shit deal as in our generation, and we're making a statement that if this is what it's been like the whole time for our subset, for our parents and our grandparents
In this industry.
then just in general in the economy, then they had a good go at it because business has never been
So,
better.
have you actually? This is a great. How many times have we said this out loud and talked about it ad nauseum about how other people in our industry are so incompetent? We are blown away that they are still in business. Like, how are they able to do this? How are they today? 2 different customers called and told us that no one had returned a phone call to them for 2 weeks from our competitors.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
One of them said we were the first ones to answer. The other one said that they couldn't get anyone back for 2 weeks, and they finally made it to the bottom of the list to our number.
Yeah.
And
we hear that all the time.
how hard is it to just hire an office person? How hard is it to just hire an answering service? And then you
that's
can
what I mean,
say to
like-
yourself, I can't handle more business. And the type of person who would turn away more business, I respect that because they
I think
they
you
are
make-
comfortable with their limitations. But us, we would just hire another designer. We would just find someone else to spill off
if
into.
there's that much business to be had, we're not just going to let it die on the
yeah,
vine.
we're not just going to
Well,
turn
also
it away.
We got brought up in an environment where you didn't let a lead. Do you remember your closing rate our first year?
yeah.
And John was like, she got over a 50% closing rate.
Yeah.
He's like, how are you doing that? You should be at like 10 or 15%. And it's like, because a single bit of this, it's got to get done, man. We can't let any of it go to waste.
Yeah, you can't let them go.
You don't let a lead go. You don't let a bid go. You don't let anything go. Like we have traditionally been so much more
What was the
aggressive.
phrase we would use? Like
We follow up until
follow
they
up
buy
until
or
they buy
die.
or die. Yeah, that's what it was.
Follow up until they buy or die.
Dude, I'd follow
and in
up until
in our industry, that is unheard of.
unheard of. You don't do that in the building industry.
Unheard of.
So
That's why. To me. I'm like, we did that in a recession. We built a business
Yeah.
in a legit recession where other guys were hanging on for their, hanging on for dear life. And now that it's good, we're just like, boo! let's start a podcast.
I'll tell you what though, when things are good, they're like heaven, but when things are bad, it's just hell on earth.
Yeah.
Hell on earth. All right. So what I want,
We're an hour and a half in.
yeah,
so
I know.
we can-
Anyone who listens to this, I'd like to get a comment on if there was something we can improve entertainment wise. Just if you want something entertaining.
Yeah.
I'd
let us
like
know.
I'd like to talk. I'd like to feel like we progress the conversation naturally, not that it's forced.
Yeah.
So
let us know. Let us know where you want to go, or if you want our opinion on something.
if you want more whales to die, whatever it is,
All right. Anchor in the buoy. Signing off.
that's your opinion.